Guess what city this is? Am I holding it wrong? Hi, good morning. It's once again sunrise in Warsaw, so guess what? Sorry, somebody tried calling me. Yes, good morning. I'm Maciek and it's super awesome to be back. I was waiting a little bit to get ready and I found something. I'm in the wonderful Brain Embassy once again, which is, you know, the place where I go to work every day. And there's a sign that I never paid attention to about finding new perspective. So, you know, I thought this is something that might be a little bit relevant to what we are talking about here. And yeah, I just wanted to show you the Warsaw sunrise. Let's play some music and let's tell some stories. Okay, now how am I gonna do this? Maybe like that? Whoop. Okay. My heart is dry, I don't laugh and I don't cry, I don't think about you all the time, but when I do I wonder why. You had to leave outside my door and do just like you did before. I know I said that I was sure, but Richmond can't imagine poor. One day baby will be old, oh baby will be old, and think of all the stories that we could have told. Baby will be old, oh baby will be old, and think of all the stories that we could have told. Little me and little you kept doing all the things we do, just like we to think it through, just I can never think it's true. Here I go again to blame the guilt, the pain, the hurt, the shame, the founding fathers of our plane. That stuck in heavy clouds of rain. One day will be old, oh baby will be old, and think of all the stories that we could have told. One day baby will be old, oh baby will be old, and think of all the stories that we could have told. One day baby will be old, oh baby will be old, and think of all the stories that we could have told. I said one day baby will be old, oh baby will be old, baby will be old. Hi! So it's super awesome to be back. And on one hand, you know, we just did the other one, 6 weeks ago. It feels like yesterday. It was a very similar sunrise as this morning. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of stuff has happened. And there's a couple of things I wanted to share because, for one, school started. And some of you may know that it's been a year now since I'm a high school teacher. I have the rare opportunity and pleasure to actually teach something that I always wanted to teach, which is to teach how to think. It's sort of an experiment that went terribly right, so we're doing it again. It's been a great pleasure to help young people to keep open minds. And the reason I mention this is when I first heard about the theme of today's meeting, about wonder, my mind started deconstructing it. And what is wonder, right? Wonder is a wonder, right? Like a wonderful space. So it can be a noun. It can also be a verb, right? You can wonder, you can think about, you can figure out something that isn't there anymore. And this resonates very deeply with me, because one of the reasons I actually got into teaching was because of a very wonderful man with us who also passed away between this morning and our last call, and that is Sir Ken Robinson. Many of you will know him as the author of the most watched TED Talk in history, I think. I had the pleasure to meet him via video conference. We had a teachers conference here in Poland about creative teaching, and he said something. Actually, he said a couple of things that are rather profound, and those are the two stories that I would like to share today. And so the first story is specifically about wandering, because he said that the thing that sets us apart as a species is our capability to imagine, to summon things that aren't there. So as you are wandering, as you are figuring out things that aren't there anymore, you are using that creative capacity, because this is something that we do extremely well. This is something that has allowed us to make a great many of things. And then there is the possibility to apply your imagination into actually solving issues, solving problems, solving tensions. And so by applying your imagination to figuring out how a particular problem can be solved, you are actually creative, and that's like the definition of creativity. And so Sir Ken Robinson, he always used to say that we should treat creativity just like literacy these days. And I like to think that, you know, we are holding some space with high school students to actually do that. And it's a great experience. It's a great opportunity to share some of your time to actually influence people. If you ask me, somewhere between the ages of 15 and 20 is the perfect opportunity to actually inspire people, to help them not to grow out of creativity, right? Because we are all born creative. The challenge is to remain creative as we are growing up, right? And I think this is really a sweet spot. So I remember when I was thinking about how to energy back. This was actually a conscious decision to work with that age group, because those are people with whom you can already talk about any topic, all subjects, just like you would with an adult person, because they are in fact young adult people. But at the same time, they are still forming their habits, they're still forming their preconceptions of the world. So the time that you invest in working with those people has the opportunity to actually have a very, very profound effect. And so this is something that I've been doing for a year now, and now we are expanding that to the group. So I'm super excited. And I think it's important, because there's a great many of issues, just like Jen and Kashi have been saying. There are many things happening around the world. Be it actually, there are many things. Whatever I would mention right now, I'm going to omit something that is important to you, and I respect that. So I'm not going to list those things. But let's just agree there's a great many of things that need figuring out. And so one way we could do that is to enable people not to grow out of creativity. And I think this capacity to wonder, to imagine things in your mind, is very precious, and it is something that we need to figuring stuff out, and there is a lot of stuff that needs figuring out. And on that note, the second thing that I wanted to share is another thing again that Sir Ken Robinson said last October, and he had an observation that resonated again with me very deeply, that it appears that there are two crises right now worldwide that need our attention. And mind you, this was way before pandemic, right? And one of the crises is the ecological one. So what is going on with the planet? And he said that this is something that is very profound. This is something that will and has very big impact on what is happening around us. This is something that needs to be solved somehow. and the reason, the underlying reason for that situation is that we have been exploiting resources of this universe in an unsustainable way. So we have been taking more than the planet can give in a sustainable way. And because we have been doing it for quite some time, we are where we are right now. But there is also a second crisis, or I should say, and there is also a second crisis. And the second crisis is one of mental health. It's one of people struggling with themselves, struggling with others, struggling with all sorts of addictions, anger, depression, what have you. And again, this is extremely profound. The proliferation of that is astounding, and even in my teaching, we see that this is no longer a problem of a couple of people every once a couple of years, but this is an issue. This is an issue that can be observed just as much as the ecological one. But what's interesting is that the second crisis seems to be also caused by a very similar strategy, by us stripping ourselves of our human resources that we are taking from ourselves and from one another more than in a sustainable way can be afforded, right? So we are not giving our bodies the attention that they need. We are not sleeping enough. We are not eating well enough. We are not paying attention to what we say. We are not paying attention to how we treat one another, with a focus for that to be sustainable. And again, I'd like to think that we don't pay attention to how we think. And there's a great talk by an old friend of mine, Tom Venning, about teaching thinking as a subject in school. That it is something that can and should be taught. And he makes this wonderful analogy to him being taught how to run in school. He comes from Australia, and apparently this is something which is quite popular there. You know, like the theory of how to move, how to breathe, how to pace yourself. And he noticed that as he traveled around the world, in no other country running has been taught like he has been taught. And his experience at a young age allowed him to be always one of the faster runners, not because he was athletically superior in terms of his body composition, but because he knew how to do that. And so I think paying attention to how we talk, how we treat one another, how we think, you know, to really figure it out, you know, that this wandering is a wonderful thing. It requires grooming, just like, you know, some flowers and some plants require grooming, right? So this is something that is so obvious that nobody considers to teach as its own thing. But I think again, this second crisis of mental health coming out of, again, us being unsustainable with ourselves and us being unsustainable with one another. This is also something that has and can have profound effect and profound impact on our future, and we need to figure this stuff out, okay? So those are the two things that sort of resonated with me when I was thinking about what has been going on since we have last seen each other. And again, I think there's a lot of wonderful things still ahead of us. So I encourage all of you to really look, listen, taste, feel yourself, the people that are dear to you, your environment, and figure out a new way. To really put that into perspective, to find a new perspective. So I started with a song about telling stories, and I like that song a lot. It's a song that was very dear to me. That was the Reckoning song by Asaf Avidan. And because I started with one, I also wanted to finish with one. And Jen and Kashfi mentioned a couple of places around the world that are worth paying attention to. I'm sitting in Poland. I have some friends up northeast, in the Belarus that are having a hard time right now and need support, mental support, and need space to change the world for the better, to fight for the world that they want, and I wish them all the best for that. So even though the song that I'm going to play now is Ukrainian, but it is in Russian, not Belarusian but Russian. So let that be my message of support and maybe drawing a little bit of attention to what's happening there.
Я солдатом смотрит его и меня под глазами мешки. Сам не видел, но мне так сказали. Его и меня нет тачки, отбили его сапогами. Я ее комбата, я разорванный реку комбата, потому что граната, белая вода, красная вода не улечит солдата. Я солдат, бедолшный. Я солдат, мама залечит мои раны. Я солдат, солдат забытой Богом страны. Я герой, скажи ты мне, какого романа? У меня остается один патрон, только я или он. Последний вагон, самогон, нас таких миллион. О-о-о-о. И я знаю свое дело, мое дело стрелять, чтобы я попала в тело врага. Это дорого для тебя, мама, война, теперь ты довольна. Я солдат, недоношенный ребенок войны. Я солдат, мама залечит мои раны. Я солдат, солдат запытай Бога страны. Я герой, скажи мне, какого романа? I'm a soldier, 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 John. I'm a soldier, 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 John. Я солдат, недоношенный ребенок войны. Я солдат, мама залечит мои раны. Я солдат, солдат запытай Бога страны. Я герой, скажи ты мне, какого романа?
Thank you guys for tuning in, and stay tuned. Wonderful stuff coming, and it's always a pleasure. So thank you very much for having me. This is a little bit difficult for me because I don't see the screen. So I hope you guys are still there, and I'm not going to find that my phone disconnected. So thank you again, and have a wonderful day, guys.